Just a quick note before we get started. This episode involves themes of slavery, which is just a content warning for anybody who may not be in the mood to listen to that. And the other note is our guest's microphone had some technical issues, which results in some of the crackling, clicking, popping that you might hear. I've done my best with it, but I'm afraid this is as good as it can get, and it does get slightly better as the recording goes on. So sorry about that. We're all learning. Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Rowan and Pine, where we have somebody who's not Emily. It's our different guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Rowan and Pine podcast is the best place in the world to listen to spooky things. Hello, my name is Ewan. I'm Niamh's husband. I'm currently doing this with a broken arm, and so if you hear any wincing or moaning during the podcast, this is me.
Please don't moan.
But it's about zombies.
It would be preferable if you didn't moan.
I am not being paid or endorsed to do this in any way, shape or form, so I will be linking my Patreon at the end of this for a GoFundMe to get me a robotic Terminator arm.
He's acting like he won't enjoy this immensely, getting to talk about zombies for the next hour or so. That is the topic of today's episode. We're doing zombies and revenants because it is October. Every episode this month, you might have noticed so far, has something to do with death and mortality. So what better than covering the undead?
There's something seriously wrong with your fan base.
Hey, they're varied, okay?
Spooky season.
You're acting like you're not one of them. Even though you don't listen to it, you would definitely fall within the category.
I do listen to your podcast.
When?
I've listened to many episodes and I've promoted your podcast tirelessly.
On his Twitch. Follow Ewan on Twitch, by the way. Well, now that Emily is otherwise occupied, we just couldn't figure out the timing to get our 40th episodes out. We try and do 20 episodes a season. We're closing out season 2. Scheduling wise, we could only get 19 this season, so Ewan is very graciously, as you've heard, stepping in to help us out. I know you have a problem with people who go off on tangents, so let's get into it. I'm going to start with the CDC from 2011 did a semi-serious zombie apocalypse guide, and they went into it. I'm glad that somebody got paid for this, because that's the dream, just to get paid to pretend to prepare for a zombie apocalypse.
It's important to be prepared.
It is important. You have a zombie apocalypse preparation at the back of your head.
I think everybody does, when we could talk about that later. But it's in that movie with Brad Pitt. The zombie movie. What the hell is it called?
World War Z?
World War Z, thank you. That the reason Israel was prepared for the zombie apocalypse was after the concentration camps. They didn't think it would be ever possible for anybody to round people up and put them in ghettos. So after that, they had like a quorum of 15 people, and it was always like, even if 15 people agreed, it was one person's responsibility to put in like a ridiculous counterpoint. So no matter how ridiculous the suggestion was, that they had to prepare for it. So that's why they were prepared in the movie. So it's always good to be prepared for zombie apocalypses. Well,
that makes sense. Well, the CDC were on their game. The actual webpage is down. It's completely archived now. But just like a short quote from it, it's, if zombies did start roaming the streets, CDC would conduct an investigation. Much like any other disease outbreak, CDC would provide technical assistance to cities, states, or international partners dealing with zombie infestation. This assistance might include consultation, lab testing and analysis, patient management and care, tracking of contacts, and infection control.
They couldn't even get people to believe in COVID, so good luck with zombie apocalypse.
I have a feeling that might be why they took the webpage down, because,
zombies aren't real!
Yeah. Can't get people to wear a mask, you know. We're not going to get people to stop from biting their loved ones, right?
Yeah.
So, my first question to you is, can you give a little rundown of your understanding of what zombie traits are?
Okay, so you're going to have to do a lot of fact-checking, and I'm going to Theo Von you and get you to look up things.
Yes, by the way, Ewan's main podcast experience as a listener is Theo Von. So,
Don't knock Theo Von. He may have had Donald Trump on, but he's funny.
yeah, Theo Von has a guy. I don't know. Does that guy have a name?
I'm going to say Chris for now.
Okay, so Chris. We don't have a Chris. We have a Niamh. Niamh does it all. Like every millennial with a side hustle. You don't get to outsource anything. So yeah, if there's anything that Ewan is just going off on a tangent about and he's just making shit up, I'm going to try and fact check as much as possible, either in the moment or in post. So
we'll see. So the origins of zombies was not your question, but I'll give you a brief origin of zombies. So in Ireland, we don't have the Bible, we have the Book of Kells. And the first mention of zombies is in 1916 when a Protestant religious practitioner forgot to put his toaster in the cupboard. Okay.
1916, Book of Kells was the first red flag there. Medieval manuscript. Okay. Yeah. Trinity College are probably going to sue you for that one.
No, so what was your question about the different types of zombies?
No. What's your understanding? What's the traits of a zombie? How would you recognize a zombie in a movie or in real life when this happens?
Well, if you look up Baltimore and search fentanyl, that's the modern zombie. But if you think of a zombie, everybody's first thing would be a shambling, shuffling corpse that is wanting people's brains, or change if you like South Park. But what people usually would think of right off the bat is just a reanimated corpse that eat your brains and gain your knowledge.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Okay, podcast over. No. A zombie, according to pop culture and folklore, is usually either a reawakened corpse with a ravenous appetite or someone bitten by another zombie infected with a zombie virus. Zombies are usually portrayed as strong but robotic beings with rotting flesh. Their only mission is to feed. That's me for a week a month. They typically don't have conversations, although some may grunt a little. In the Haitian Voodoo tradition, which we will get into much more later, our listeners might remember a little rundown from a whole year ago when we covered Voodoo and Voodoo and Hoodoo in our Crossroads episode. But yeah, they are different. Zombies in this tradition are said to be created by malevolent priests or sorcerers who use them to carry out their commands. In fiction, the methods of creating zombies have evolved. Common explanations now include exposure to radiation or the spread of a contagious virus. This has led to the popular notion of a zombie apocalypse, where the infection spreads uncontrollably, and the zombification of the human population seems inevitable. Zombies are often portrayed as multiplying by infecting others, usually through biting, who then transform into zombies themselves. Side note, most annoying trope in zombie pop culture is the person who hides their bite.
Yeah, it's I've never seen a zombie movie in my life or heard of zombies. I have been bitten. I better not tell anybody.
Yeah, I'm just going to pretend this isn't happening until I completely turn and kill everybody that is helping to protect.
Isn't that the whole plot of the TV show Supernatural? It's if they just talked to each other and told each other what was going on, the series wouldn't exist.
And the two of them spend 23 hours a day together, and you're just like, I can't do this again.
But yeah, it's my pet peeve in TV shows when people don't talk about something ominous, or what is it in Dawn of the Dead, the remake, when the pregnant lady's bitten and they can see people turning from bites. It's no, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to let her deliver the pregnant zombie, or the pregnant zombie baby, the zombie baby. God, I hope it's not a pregnant zombie baby.
Jesus, that's a whole other set of problems. The idea that zombies' impulse and drive comes from the brain has become a key concept in their depiction. Because of this, destroying the brain or severing its connection to the body is thought to stop them. Since zombies are already dead, conventional methods of killing like gunshots, poisoning, or stabbing are ineffective unless the brain is damaged. In cases where zombies are controlled by magic, they might be stopped by the death of the sorcerer who created them.
I don't think I've ever seen magic zombies in any TV show, movie, or comic, or anything like that. Or game, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of like an untapped thing. I'm trying to think.
Because usually if you're your George A. Romero, Night of the Living Dead, slow, shuffling brains zombies, and then you have your although controversial, some people say they're not zombies, but you have your like fast zombies that are like from World War Z or from 28 Days Later, the people who are infected with the rage virus, which is essentially zombies.
Mm-hmm. They're zombified. I will put forward one example of a zombie controlled by magic in American Horror Story Coven. There is a voodoo priestess in it, and she is controlling the dead with magic. So that is one that I can think of. And I can only remember because I'm currently watching it. Zombies are typically shown as you said, slow-moving, decaying figures, though in some stories, especially those involving magic, their bodies may be preserved. In certain cases, zombies even get superhuman abilities such as enhanced strength or speed. Yeah, the speed just... like, we don't need to give them that on top of the biting and all of that.
Well, it's better than that, or it's better than, what was it, Eizabeth, where she, like, eats people's brains to, like, solve the cases. Yeah. She's a pathologist who, like, eats people's brains to see how they died or something stupid. Like.
Yeah, it was such a good show, though. It's good fun. It's said that zombies are a great example of human anxiety. Horror helps us face our fears. They threaten our sense of belonging, both in our families and communities, as well as in our own bodies. The rise of zombies marks the end of human control. So it's like, do you remember when I was saying to you, like, this is way off topic, but right, I have a fear of apes, okay?
She does, can confirm anytime she sees an ape, including when we've been to any zoo.
It's like they have the strength and most of the intelligence of humans, but very little of the humanity. And yeah, I know, like, obviously they have their little communities and all that kind of stuff, but then you hear these stories of them, like, tearing people apart, and you're like, yeah, that is absolutely horrifying. And zombies are horrifying for the same reason. So, origins. Do you want to talk about origins?
Origins?
Origins, orangutans, origins.
Can we fact check that? So the actual word zombie comes from a Haitian word that I'm going to butcher to attempt to pronounce, but it's spelled M-V-U-M-B-I, so Mvumbi. I'm going to say that's pretty close. That directly translates to devil, but was eventually used by Haitian slaves to describe those of them who had been stripped of everything that made them human, while being enslaved and forced to work in cane fields, which could only be described as inhumane conditions. Their word for the living dead became synonymous with a broken slave. There is, however, another version of the Haitian zombie, a revolutionary slave. These were people who refused to submit to the harshness of slavery and resisted by various means, one of which was to poison their masters. The resistance movement by these Haitian zombies led to the largest and most successful slave rebellion in history. The Haitian Revolution, which led to Haiti becoming the first independent country founded by former slaves. The revolution began in 1791 and lasted about 13 years. In this time, the word zombie was first written about by a French writer who referred to a zombie as a slave's belief in a returned soul. In 1929, a World War I vet turned New York Times journalist named William Seabrook, known for being an all-round scuzzy sensationalist with an interest in occult too, and a particular interest in Haitian voodoo. And he introduced the concept of the Haitian zombie to kind of the mass populace. He eventually published The Magic Island, creating the kind of trope that zombies are unintelligible, uncivilized barbarians driven to drain the life out of the living. The book became a bestseller in the US and more or less birthed our modern concept of a zombie. So that was just before the release of the first feature film, White Zombie. And then the first actual mention using the word zombie in a movie was the 60s Night of the Dead by George Romero.
Interesting. Thank you very much for that.
That all came from memory, and I did not read a single thing.
Oh, yeah. Definitely didn't read any of that. Yeah, so my research was very similar. Most people, I think, know at this stage that zombies do come from Haiti. So yeah, one of our best known accounts of folklore in Haiti is by a writer called Zora Neale Hurston, who also appeared back in our October 2023 Halloween episode. Zora wrote extensively about voodoo and hoodoo. Hurston described the zombie as a body without a soul. She was actually, which I did not go into in that episode, she was a controversial figure. She was the leading black woman novelist of the Harlem Renaissance, but she opposed the Supreme Court decision in Brown v. Board of Education and she defended segregated schools. So that's just a flavour of the multitudes that she contained. So she had a book called Tell My Horse, which was a first-hand account of the weird mysteries and horrors of voodoo. And writing specifically about zombies, she said, "No one can stay in Haiti without hearing zombies mentioned in one way or another. And the fear of this thing and all that it means seeps over the country like a ground current of cold air. Sit in the marketplace and pass a day with the market woman and notice how often some vendeuse cries out that the zombie with its invisible hand has filched her money or her goods. Or the accusation is made that a zombie has been set upon her or someone in her family to work a piece of evil."
So like the domestic Irish leprechaun, we don't know that they're real, but they could be.
Yeah, you can't prove it's not real.
When you start like saying they're not real, that's when they get you.
Yep. And they just be waiting for you. In Haitian tradition, zombies are dead individuals brought back to life through necromancy by a bokor, who is a sorcerer or a witch. The bokor's powers are opposed by the Hungan, which is a male priest, that's Houngan, and Mambo, that's a female priestess of formal voodoo. Once revived, zombie remains under the bokor's control, acting as a personal slave without any free will. This process has two key parts. First, a zombie astral is made by removing part of a person's soul. This piece of the soul can then be used for other magical purposes, including bringing a person's corpse back to life, known as zombie corps cadavre. That's French. A bokor can capture a zombie astral to boost their spiritual abilities, or they may also steal this astral zombie. I keep wanting to say astral zombie.
I keep hearing astral zombies. Like every time you say voodoo, hoodoo, I just keep thinking the power of the voodoo. Hoodoo, you do. Remind me of the Babe.
Yeah.
David Bowie.
We're going to have to listen to astral zombies after this.
And Labyrinth.
And watch Labyrinth, yeah. A bokor can capture a zombie astral to boost their spiritual abilities, or they may also seal this astral zombie in a specially decorated bottle and sell it to clients for luck, healing, or success in business. It's believed that ultimately God will reclaim the zombie's soul, making it a temporary spiritual being. So these two types of zombies in the voodoo tradition, they reflect the belief in soul dualism found in both the Bakongo religion and Haitian voodoo. So as we sort of alluded to before, there is voodoo, vodou, and hoodoo, which are three, I don't want to say three branches on the same tree, but they led into one another.
And these are all like kind of different religious beliefs in Africa. And then when they gathered up slaves from various areas throughout Africa and threw them all in the same kind of plantations, that's what happens with cultures. They mix together in a melting pot, and this is what you get.
Niamh, the editing gremlin here, just wanted to jump in and give a further explanation for anybody who has not listened to our Crossroads episode from last year. Voodoo and Vodou are connected in that they share their roots from African belief systems. It's generally accepted that Voodoo is Louisiana, Vodou is Haiti, and Hoodoo is a folk magic and draws elements of Protestantism. So you've got that Christian element in there as well. So yes, three separate things. Just wanted to slot this in because we moved on a little bit quickly there. Yes, thank you. Each type of zombie is considered to be missing one half of its soul, either the physical body or the spirit. So you were talking earlier about themes of slavery. There is actually an account in Hurston's book, a person that she referred to as A. And the passage reads, A was awakened because somebody required his body as a beast of burden. In his natural state, he could never have been hired to work with his hands, so he was made into a zombie because they wanted his services as a labourer. B was summoned, that's another person, to labour, but also he is reduced to the level of a beast as an act of revenge. C was the culmination of a Bamoon ceremony and pledge, that is, he was given as a sacrifice to pay off a debt to a spirit for benefits received. I asked how the victims were chosen, and many told me that any corpse not too old to work would do. So that's just essentially they're removing the need to actually take care of the person. You know, if they're creating slaves or enslaved people, I suppose is the correct term that we should be using here.
You got to use them fresh corpses.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes, and there's so much racial undertones here, but choosing the strongest, the best labourers, the best craftsmen and all of that, but what's the inconvenient part of bringing a human to your property to work? You have to feed them and clothe them and take care of them medically and all of that. So, if they even did that much for them. So, like, the zombie is achieving all of that without actually having to do any of the work that's involved with them being actually alive and human. So, you talked about the Haitian slave rebellion. One of the first lessons learned by Haitian slaves who were completely dependent on their masters was how to use poison for suicide. In Haitian belief, dying meant returning to Guinea, or Africa, and gaining freedom. This act was also seen as a way to take back one's own life from the master, making suicide a form of defiance, which is incredibly depressing. After the successful slave revolution in 1804, which freed Haiti from the French Empire, the fear of being re-enslaved still lingered. Some leaders nearly reinstated slavery for economic reasons, as the world had few alternatives to a slave-based economy. This led to a persistent fear of becoming a zombie, which symbolised re-enslavement. Nobody wanted to be dead and powerless working for a master. According to legend, the only way for a zombie to escape was by consuming salt. A zombie's master would ensure their food was bland to prevent this. If a zombie tasted salt, they would regain their consciousness and return to life and freedom. For many Haitians, having flavourful food became associated with the idea of freedom. So it's just really interesting that, like, flavourful food is like that little act of, like, symbolism of, like,
fuck you white people and your bland food.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ultimate. It's why they make so much fun of us for having bland food all the time. It's like, you never had to worry about becoming zombies.
It's like when I lived in Canada and I went to get a burrito, and the guy was from South America, and I ordered for, like, the spiciest hot sauce in the burrito, and he looked at me, he was like, "Are you sure you're very white?"
Yeah, white boy spicy is definitely a thing there. Though it's rare, there are several credible, and I'm putting credible in quotes here, reports in medical journals of people using compounds to induce paralysis in people and then revive them from the grave. A 1997 article in the British medical journal The Lancet described 3 verifiable accounts of zombies. In one case, a Haitian woman who appeared to be dead was buried in a family tomb, only to reappear 3 years later. What kind of state was she in?
She wouldn't be well.
She wouldn't be well. She'd need a wash.
She would need her hair done.
Yeah. An investigation revealed that her tomb was filled with stones, and her parents agreed to admit her to a local hospital. I fucking hope they did. In another well-documented case, a Haitian man named Clervius Narcisse, what an amazing name, Clervius Narcisse entered a local hospital with severe respiratory problems in 1962. After he slipped into a coma, Narcisse was declared dead and buried shortly thereafter. But 18 years later, a man walked up to Angelina Narcisse in a village marketplace, insisting she was his sister. Doctors, townspeople, and family members all identified him as Clervius Narcisse, who claimed that he had been buried alive, then dug up and put to work on a distant sugar plantation. He didn't even get a nice second chance at life. He just dug up and put to work on a plantation.
It seems like an awful lot of effort as well.
Yeah, you can...
to poison somebody to get them as a slave. Like, I don't... And was slavery still around in the 60s?
That was bang in the middle of the civil rights movement. Okay. So there was not slavery, but there would have been, like, segregation and stuff like that. I will double fact check that for the year, but yeah. And then probably, I remember this, but do you remember the whole bath salts thing in 2012?
Yes, I was a bath salt advocate.
You're a bath salt dealer? Yeah. Well, there was a man called Rudy Eugene who was shot dead by police while biting off parts of another man's face.
Oh, yeah. You hear lots of things like that. You know, then there's that zombie drug that people are on now in South America that there was a Vice documentary on. They give it to people to comply with them, so like a thief will come up to you and they'll, like, prick you with a needle or, you know, get it into your blood system or spike your drink, and you basically become subservient and compliant, and they bring you up to an ATM and literally get you to give them all your money, and then they do all sorts of, like, sometimes they get their organs stolen and stuff like that. Jesus.
So Eugene was dubbed the Miami Zombie. He reportedly growled at police when they pleaded with him to stop. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. There's a theory that Eugene may have been high on bath salts, a synthetic drug known to cause violent behaviour and hallucinations. Police pointed out similarities to other cases where individuals became violent, disrobed, and displayed superhuman strength. Bath salts were, at the time, a relatively new drug and were banned by the DEA in 2011. They contain chemicals that produced a stimulant high similar to meth or cocaine. Users report severe agitation, paranoia, and loss of control.
Just to go back to it, because I've fact-checked myself. See, I'm getting very good at this.
Very good.
It's called Devil's Breaths, and it's also called scopolamine, Scopolamine, and it also has a street name of Burundanga.
Burundanga?
Yeah, it's a cool name, but Devil's Breath is definitely cooler, and it's derived from nightshade plants, and basically they use it on people to turn them into, it's like super rohypnol or roofies.
Roofies.
No,
not rupees.
Rupees are in Zelda. And India.
I was going to say rupees are like Indian currency,
Well,
right?
Zelda, I played Zelda before I knew about India. Leave me alone.
Okay. Zelda predates India, right. Eugene's girlfriend, in an interview with the Miami Herald, said he was a kind person and didn't use hard drugs. She believes he was either unknowingly drugged or cursed by voodoo, which she hadn't believed in until this incident.
Or he was just having the time of his life and lying.
Yeah, but I don't know. Time of your life, biting people's face off, they don't seem to go together for me.
Well, I'm sure people in America who are like The Walking Dead now on fentanyl didn't look at it and be like, hey, I want to be like a zombie. They just want to get high.
So, my next question for you is, how would you categorize zombies in pop culture? You've kind of talked about it, but...
So you have your George A. Romero, super slow, like zombies that you see people running around with shovels, you know, hitting them, and you can like get out of the way and board yourself in the house and be reasonably okay because they're slow as shit.
And usually people are tripping over things for no reason when they're running away from them.
Then you have your Dawn of the Dead remake where they're running zombies, which are far scarier because fuck that. It wants to eat you and you need cardio to survive. Not about that life. It's funny because George A. Romero went from being like a pioneer of zombie movies and Night of the Living Dead, where everybody loved it, and then Dawn of the Dead, which everybody loved it. And then he went too far in Land of the Dead because he started like making them talk and like having little bits of their humanity, and it was just terrible because they communicated with each other and formed a little zombie union. Like
that, yeah, that was really stupid when it was like, I remember you saying you were like, once that zombie started talking, I was done. There are like, it seems to be mostly like in TV where there's talking zombies. I don't know, did Walking Dead ever, you finished Walking Dead, didn't you?
No, I didn't. Everybody got bored of Walking Dead. Nobody's finished The Walking Dead. It's a myth that The Walking Dead has an end, and some say that they're still talking about stuff and things. Stuff, Laura. We need to talk about stuff and things. Horrible. And somehow, through all of this, there seems to be zombies outside, but human drama is far more interesting.
But I'm just wondering, did it ever get to the point of talking zombies?
God, I hope not.
And then the other thing I was going to say, in TV, you do have your talking zombies because there is iZombie, where there was talking zombies. The show that I will never get over the fact that it didn't get a second season, which was BBC's In the Flesh, which was great. And I never hear anybody talking about it anymore. But the whole plot of that show was there was a zombie outbreak and they discovered a cure, which gave people back their consciousness and their humanity. And then they had to basically go back into a zombie rehabilitation and release program where they had to attend counselling and deal with the crimes that they committed while they were under the influence of zombiness. And yeah, it was just a very sweet, it was set in like a small town in England. It was quite sweet and it was quite like don't get me wrong, there were like some dark parts of it. But yeah, it was just really cool and it was really different from what I could say. There was nothing else that was going on, and it was right around the time that there was a bit of a zombie revival, like 2015, 2016. But yeah, R.I.P. In the Flesh, pun intended.
So yeah, you have your running zombies, your walking zombies, your talking zombies, your 28 days later zombies not zombies, where they're infected with the rage virus. But they're the scariest zombies of all, in my opinion, with their fucked up eyes and the fact that they run and
the noise they make too.
Yeah.
And
then you have, I guess the infected in like the Last of Us TV show and game as well. It's kind of similar in that people can be almost zombified even though they're infected with cordyceps, which is a fungal infection. It sounds like like a yeast infection.
Well, like when we talked earlier about the attributes of a zombie and what like makes a zombie, I mean, I would argue apart from there's shamblers in The Last of Us, right? There's slow zombies, and is there fast zombies too? I can't remember. This is what happens when you put like 4 years in between seasons. I forget what happened.
Well, it's like most like games now, like very few of them have like running zombies. It's all like Resident Evil style slow shuffling zombies, because that's what's scary, is like a horde of things moving at you very, very slowly.
Mm-hmm. What was that game that you showed me the part of it where there was Nazi zombies? Remember there was like this one, was it like extra gameplay or something?
Oh, you're thinking of Call of Duty Zombies, which is probably more popular than Call of Duty now. It was like a game mode. Call of Duty is like, for those that don't know, is a multiplayer shooting game where you basically run around just killing other humans. But then they added in like a fun little co-op game mode where like you and 3 of your friends run around and like board up places and kill wave after wave of endless zombies.
Yeah. Were they shufflers?
At the start, yeah, but as the rounds go on, it gets harder, and I believe they run. It's been a long time since I played zombies.
Mm-hmm. And just back to my earlier question, are there like slow zombies in The Last of Us?
I'm trying to even remember now.
Are they slow or fast?
They're not really zombies in The Last of Us. They're just kind of... I suppose you could kind of think of... But they're not zombies in the sense of... I suppose they do bite people and make them infected, and they do shamble after people, and
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, like, I would look at it this way: if you're in the mood to watch something with zombies, your craving would be satiated if you watch The Last of Us, because it's got all the
pretty much
elements of zombies, right?
If a zombie apocalypse happened tomorrow, if we woke up and saw in the news that a zombie apocalypse had hit, where are you going?
Where am I going?
Yeah, where are you going?
To the remotest area I can think of.
We should be okay, like, because we live in the northwest of Ireland and it's pretty fucking remote.
Yeah, nobody lives here. They actually, somebody on Reddit put up a population map of Ireland, and it was showing like that, like, was it like 50% of the population of Ireland lives on the east coast?
Yeah, I believe that. Oh, the east coast of Ireland, they're fucked.
Yeah, on the island, because they've got Belfast, they've got Dublin, you know.
Just to go back to World War Z again, it was a cool idea, and that which was something different is they mentioned how North Korea dealt with it. So like when the whole world has fallen to the zombie apocalypse, that North Korea in the space of 48 hours took out the teeth of every single person, and it stopped the infection spreading, because if they couldn't bite, there was no infection spreading. I'd like to see anybody try and actually implement that. Don't just go around pulling like everybody's teeth.
Once again, they couldn't get us all to wear masks, so
yeah. If they can't get people to like allow 5G, they're not going to let you take your teeth out.
And just as a side note, we do not endorse North Korea. Just in case everyone's like, they sound like they like it.
Or 5G.
Or 5G. So yeah, that is sort of our pop culture rundown of zombies. I knew you would be the right person to have on for that.
I know, I totally regret though picking zombies as a topic, because it's more about slavery and that kind of darkness as it is to be honest with you, like my only experience and knowledge before researching anything to do with zombies was from computer games and from movies. So then when I actually looked into it and saw that it came from like slavery and all that, I was like, oh, that's a bit grim.
Well, like, unfortunately, that is a huge part of folklore, and that Emily and I do find a lot. Like, we'll start researching into something, and like, say for example, we had our episode on mermaids, and we realized that a lot of mermaid legends are allegories for women giving up their youth and their beauty and it being stolen from them, because in a lot of mermaid legends, he takes her tail or he takes her comb or something, and it forces her to stay on land. So
takes her comb?
Yeah. So mermaids have a comb that they'll comb through their hair, and it's sort of like a symbol of her beauty. So it's like stealing her comb is almost like stealing a woman's beauty away from her.
So she's no clothes and she's half fish, but she's a comb.
Yes. I didn't make it up. Like, it's not...
I have a good pop culture question for you then.
Right.
You know how white women love murder documentaries and love serial killers, and definitely white women, like a small percentage of white women have are attracted to serial killers and will like write them love letters and try and marry them in prison and whatnot.
Right.
If the zombie apocalypse happens, is it going to be like pin-up poster boy zombies that the white women love? For example, if like, I don't know, if like Chris Hemsworth was a zombie, they're still going to be like, well, he could be a zombie, but it's still Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. See, I think that's something that like In the Flesh probably could have explored. And also, wasn't like Nicholas Hoult when he was like top tier heartthrob? He was like a zombie in that film.
Because he looks like a sickly Victorian child.
Yeah, well, he did then. He doesn't now. And I'm pretty sure like people were like thirsting over him, even though he was like very pale. And I mean, people loved Edward Cullen. He's dead.
And that's true. Women did like Edward Cullen. So there probably would be a small minority of women looking for Zombussy.
Jesus Christ. Okay, that's the title of the episode.
That could be the title. Zombussy.
I think women love a tortured hero. They love a man with hidden depth.
Like The Crow, Brandon Lee.
Yes, because it hints at sensitivity and it hints at like a man who has basically been through it and he's able to relate emotionally, probably is a little bit more in touch with his feelings.
Well, like I know just from the terrible, terrible things that you read that
expose me on my own podcast.
That there's definitely going to be, if I looked up like zombie erotic novels, I know without even looking up that there is definitely...
Oh, there definitely is. Look one up. Let's see what kind of titles we have there.
There's novels about, what was that one that you told me the name of that you allegedly didn't read?
I did not read it. It was like milk, and it's called something farm, but you keep calling it Milking the Minotaur.
Milking the Minotaur.
Every time he comes in when I'm reading something, he's like, "You're reading Milking the Minotaur?" I'm like, I'm not.
Zombie erotic fiction.
Mm-hmm.
The erotic zombie, there is. There's on Goodreads, there is 30 zombie erotica books. Flesh, Skin, Reunion, Fables of the Reconstruction. Ugh.
Read out the best blurb that you can see or the funniest.
Reawakening, Lesbian Zombies from Outer Space.
Wasn't that a movie?
Probably. Love, Lust and Zombies.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Lesbian Vampire Killers.
Flesh Bang. He loves me for my brains.
Oh, Jesus.
Still Hungry for Love. That's great.
That is good.
Okay, I'm going to go into Still Hungry for Love. Hungry for Love gives a delicious new spin on undying love. Each new story is a slice of wicked zombie fun. By Jonathan Mabry from New York Times said that. A wonderfully twisted underkill. This doesn't give you the fucking blurb though.
If you scroll down, it should.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, there's like 188 zombie romance books, a romance story involving zombies, preferably either the heroine or hero is a zombie. Also accepted are romances set during zombie attacks. Oh, that's the last thing you'd want, like, during a zombie attack is the ride.
Well, see, that was also a big problem with The Walking Dead. It was like, how is your one getting pregnant? They haven't washed in 6 months. And all of the women have perfect eyebrows and no underarm hair, of course.
Yeah, so while I don't judge people for reading zombie erotic fiction, don't be at it. You've better things you could be looking up.
As the fanfic people say, you don't yuck somebody's yum.
Dirty bastard.
My kink is not your kink, or your kink is not my kink. I can't remember which way it's supposed to go. So yes, we can get into then some other zombie myths or zombie adjacent myths from other parts of the world. So probably the closest we have in Celtic mythology is from Welsh Celtic mythology. It's the tale of Branwen and the Magic Cauldron. A side note, anybody who's read A Court of Thorns and Roses will recognise this story where Sarah J Maas got the idea for the cauldron in that, which turns people into fae. So, long ago in the ancient lands of Britain, there lived Branwen, daughter of Llŷr, a woman of great beauty and wisdom. Her brother, Bran the Blessed, was a giant and king of the Britons, known for his might and kindness. One day, Matholwch, king of Ireland, journeyed across the sea to seek Branwen's hand in marriage. He wished to unite their kingdom in peace and harmony through this bond. Bran agreed to the match and all seemed well, but Branwen had another brother, Efnisien, whose heart was filled with unrest. Perhaps it was because he had been left out of the marriage arrangements. Perhaps it was because he hated the Irish. Or perhaps it was the ancient urge to control his sister's fate. Whatever the reasons, Efnisien seethed with anger. In a fit of fury, he sneaked into the stables and cruelly mutilated the horses of the Irish king. The wedding celebrations nearly collapsed into chaos. Enraged, King Mytholic demanded retribution for this insult, but Bran, wise and gentle, soothed the anger with gifts. It's a great way to soothe anger. Among these offerings was a magical cauldron, the Cauldron of Rebirth, which could return the dead to life. A corpse placed inside would rise again to fight, but without the gift of speech or thought, no more than a silent, soulless soldier. Peace was restored and Branwen sailed to Ireland to become queen, but the peace was short-lived. In time, Mytholic and his people turned against Branwen, mistreating her cruelly. Her heart heavy with sorrow, she sent word to her brother Bran, calling for aid. When Bran heard of her suffering, he gathered his forces and sailed to war. The Irish, however, had a fearsome advantage. With the Cauldron of Rebirth, they revived their fallen warriors, who rose again to fight, though stripped of their voices and souls. These reanimated corpses, bound to battle, fought on without rest, like the walking dead. Efnisien, haunted by guilt for causing the strife, devised a desperate plan. He slipped into the battlefield and, pretending to be dead, allowed himself to be cast into the cauldron. Once inside, with all his strength, he shattered the cauldron from within. But the effort was so great that his heart burst, and Efnisien perished for real. With the cauldron destroyed, the tide of war turned, yet the cost was high. For many brave souls had been lost on both sides, and Branwen's heart was shattered by the suffering that had befallen her people. Thus ends the tale of Branwen, the Cauldron of Rebirth, and the brother who, in the end, sought redemption through sacrifice. Some say that this cauldron is a symbol of both birth and death, may have inspired later tales of magical vessels such as the Holy Grail, but in this legend it was a source of dread, bringing only hollow life and endless war to those it touched. Have you ever heard that story before?
I have not.
Neither have I. But it's cool. You never normally see Irish people as the villains and everything.
No, we're normally busy doing nothing.
Yeah, or being oppressed.
And now we're just going to have a quick word from our sponsor, Milking a Minotaur. We are not sponsored by the book Milking a Minotaur, but it's a real thing, and the name is fascinating, and I suggest you read the blurb on Amazon because it is funny as fuck.
Do you want to read it out?
No, I don't want to spoil it for them. They like to read their porn. They don't need to hear my wonderful, soothing ASMR telling them about the Minotaur or Zombussy.
Great. Thank you for that.
Actually, can we get a poll on your Instagram if I should start doing ASMR with my soft, soothing voice?
We can do a poll, yes. Nobody will vote now because people don't vote in my Instagram polls.
Still, I want to hear a poll. I need something good going on in my life with my broken arm, which actually is broken. It's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I'm getting surgery on Monday.
He can't play guitar or games properly. He's very
This is why
sad.
I'm doing this podcast, because I can't game, I can't play guitar, because I fell bringing out the garbage, or bins as we call it here, wearing Crocs. But to be fair, if I was wearing normal shoes, I still would have fallen because it's slippy as a motherfucker outside. So, all going according to plan. I'm getting surgery on Monday and I should be okay. All not going according to plan. I'm going to come back as a zombie.
And this is why we're doing this, to prepare me for it.
Zombussy.
It's your new favourite word. Yeah. In Hindu mythology, we have the Vitala. Vitala are spirits that haunt charnel grounds and possess the bodies of the dead. In their mortal vehicles, these spirits harass the living, driving people mad, killing children, and causing miscarriages. Because they live in the realm between life and death, Vitalas can see the past, present, and future, and for this reason, magicians try to enslave them. However, they also guard villages and have a deep understanding of human nature. They can be dispatched by reciting holy mantra and performing funeral rites of the dead. According to legend, King Vikramaditya was asked to capture a Vitala that lived in the tree that stood near the kingdom's cremation grounds. To succeed, the king had to remain silent, but every time he captured the Vitala, the creature told the king a magical story ending in a question. No matter how hard the king tried to keep quiet, he was compelled to answer the question, and when the king spoke, the Vitala escaped and returned to his tree.
Zebedee, get down from that tree!
That's a Tommy Tiernan reference, by the way. Yeah. Like, such an easy way to be thwarted. Like, you just ask somebody a question and they're so polite they have to answer you.
Somebody I knew when I was younger used to say, actually, like he meant really like, oh, cool. But he said like, actually, and you'd kind of stop and wait for him to say something. But he was just saying, oh, cool. It would work, man. He'd get away from that king back into his fucking tree.
And now we are moving into the portion of the podcast which is away from zombies and into revenants. So there's a blurring of the lines sort of between zombies and revenants. For definition, a revenant is a spirit or animated corpse that is believed to have been revived from death to haunt the living. The word revenant is derived from the old French word revenant, which means returning, and it's related to the French verb revenir, which means to come back. Revenants are not mindless, and they do have sentience. It was said that when a wicked person died, their restless spirits were sometimes able to reanimate their corpse from beyond the grave in order to carry out their malevolent intent.
Basically, if you've watched the movie The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio, you know what a revenant is.
Literally, the only thing I remember that movie is the bear.
Homeboy fucked a bear. But yeah, no, the whole thing about that is the trappers that he's with when they're getting skins and pelts, and then they get attacked by a faction of Native Americans, and the group of trappers he's with, one of them like kills his son and leaves him for dead. They bury him in the ground, and then he comes back and wreaks havoc. Yes,
so he reveneers. He comes back. We can go back to ancient Greece for our first sort of mentions of revenants. They were very much a society that embraced the supernatural. Ancient Greek writings reveal that many believed that the dead could walk the earth. They imagined scenarios where reanimated corpses left their graves to haunt the streets and seek revenge on the living for wrongs done to them. That's like holding a grudge to a whole other level. You know me, like I forget when people wrong me. Like I'm not good at holding grudges.
Whereas me and your mother will hold a vendetta to the grave.
Yeah, and beyond it, according to the Greeks. Even those who couldn't physically escape their tombs were seen as threats, as mediums could easily summon restless spirits to commit terrible acts. These ideas were widely accepted, rooted in the Greeks' cultural and religious beliefs which viewed death as not always final and allowed for a blurry line between the living and the dead. The term used here is revenant, from the Latin word for returning. Revenants are feared because they are believed to leave their graves at night to harm the living. To prevent them from doing so, they must be sufficiently killed, often through incineration or dismemberment. Other methods to trap revenants include tying them up, staking them, flipping them onto their stomachs, burying them deep, or weighing them down with heavy objects. Although rare, evidence of these practices has been found in archaeological records, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. The remains of necromancy, or the intentional summoning of the dead, are also present in archaeological finds, but much of what we know about necromantic rituals comes from Greek literature. The oldest description of such ritual is in Book 11 of Homer's Odyssey, where Odysseus fills a pit with milk, honey, wine, water, and barley. Sounds gross. He then sacrifices a ram and a ewe, letting their blood mix with the offerings to summon the dead for answers to his questions.
But that doesn't sound right. That sounds like they're just trying to keep it. That sounds like a slip and slide inside a grave. Like nobody's revenant now to that with milk and honey and blood and God knows what else. You'd be trying to get out and then you'd be sliding back in.
At least you wouldn't get like side-eyed if you went into like Tesco and bought all those things. So they're all pretty easy to get, aren't they? Milk, honey, wine, water and barley.
Imagine the shape of us going up to the graveyard with honey and water and milk, digging up a grave and filling it up with that shit. And if somebody came up, what are you doing? It's like, sliding.
Stop asking questions. Additionally, the Greeks used curse tablets. Emily covered curse tablets pretty extensively in our Greco-Roman witchcraft episode. The curse tablets are known as katadesmoi, to invoke the dead. These are binding spells inscribed on thin sheets of lead, often shaped like tongues or leaves, and were placed in graves during secret nighttime ceremonies. Ooh. Messages on these tablets were meant for the underworld deities, who were expected to compel the souls of the dead to fulfill the requests of the living. It'd be pretty annoying if you were like Hades or Persephone and you're like, for fuck's sake, like they keep sending this stuff and we don't have time. Petitioners often sought to rectify wrongs such as murder or inheritance theft. Why is that specifically mentioned?
It's a lot of inheritance theft going on.
This prick went and died and didn't leave me the house.
He took my money.
But curse tablets were also used to gain advantages in love or business. Next we have Norse Revenants. So Drogar are reanimated corpses that dwell in burial mounds, often guarding treasure. They sit up in their graves rather than lie down, which is fucking horrifying. Why are they sitting up? Unlike ghosts, they have physical bodies with superhuman strength and the ability to grow in size. However, they cannot hide the stench of decay or their swollen, deathly blue or pale appearance. Drogar use their immense size to crush victims or devour them by drinking their blood. They also roam the countryside, riding animals like cattle or horses to death through exhaustion. Why are you riding cattle?
To exhaustion.
But like cows can't even run fast.
I don't know, they can move fast enough when they're motivated.
When you startle them, yeah. But they're very, like, they'll break a leg quicker than they'd run fast, like. We know, we have cows around here. As skilled sorcerers, they can shapeshift. To defeat a Draugr, one must cut off its head, burn the body, and scatter the ashes into the sea. It's very...
That's a lot. That's a lot of fucking effort.
It's a big undertaking. And what if you aren't anywhere near the sea?
Well, you just want to whack off a leg and fucking run.
Yeah, it will slow them down anyway. So it's pretty well established that Drogar are the inspiration for the Whites in Game of Thrones.
They're also in God of War, Skyrim, and Baldur's Gate for my gamer boys.
Thank you very much. We're also very...
Got to appeal to my male audience.
That's it.
The women are too busy reading about milking a minotaur.
No milking, no minotaur. So the definition from the Game of Thrones wiki is a wight is a reanimated corpse, either human or animal, raised from death by the use of necromancy. Wights raised by the White Walkers were often referred to collectively as the Army of the Dead. And it also gave us the greatest scene in Game of Thrones where they rose a dragon from the dead. The Grettis saga is renowned for its portrayal of Old Norse revenants. The saga tells us a tale of a powerful warrior named Grettir, who battles various monsters throughout his journey, ultimately becoming monstrous himself and ending up exiled in a cave, where he becomes the target of heroic attacks. In the saga, Grettir encounters two revenants. The first is Kar the Old, a hagbull or mound dweller, who haunts his own grave and the surrounding island. He didn't get very far.
No, he didn't.
He haunts his own grave, like, alright, unless anybody's coming to visit you, you're not going to see anybody. Grettir's friend Othin shares the story about Kar. Out on the headland stands a grave mound. In it was laid Kar the Old, Thorfinn's father. At first, father and son shared a single farm on the island, but after Kar died, he returned from the dead and began walking again, eventually driving away all the other farmers who owned the land there. Which, if he wasn't really dead, that was an absolutely ingenious way of getting more land. You just scare people away from it, and then you can take it by adverse possession. When Grettir enters Kar's barrow, he is met with a foul odour and a horrifying sight. After he disturbs the treasure hoard within, the Revenant rises to attack Grettir, but he is ultimately put to rest by decapitation. The second Revenant in the story is Glam, who died on Yule. People became aware that Glam was not resting in peace. He wrought such havoc that some people fainted at the sight of him, while others went out of their minds. After a battle, Grettir eventually got Glam on his back. Just before delivering the killing blow, Glam succeeded in cursing Grettir because Glam was endowed with more evil force than most other ghosts, and thus he was able to speak and leave Grettir with the curse after his death. So those are our Norse revenants, or Draugr. And then probably the best known depictions of revenants is from medieval Britain. In the Middle Ages, William of Newburgh documented several cases of supernatural occurrences, intending them as a warning to posterity. He noted that such stories were quite common and remarked, "If I were to record all the instances of this kind that I have confirmed in our times, the task would be immensely laborious and troublesome." Which sounds like a cop-out to me.
William was on some bath salts.
He's like, I don't have time, but just trust me, bro. That's the source, trust me, bro. One particular story tells of a man of, quote, evil conduct, who is fleeing from the law and decides to hide in the province of York. In a misguided move, he chooses to marry. Why would you get married when you're on the lam? Consumed by jealousy, he hides in the rafters of his bedroom and catches his wife in an act of infidelity with a young local man. However, he accidentally falls to the floor, mortally wounding himself. What a humiliating sequence of events. You find your wife in bed with another man and then you fall out of the roof. He dies a few days later. As Newberg recounts, a Christian burial indeed he received, though unworthy of it. It did not much benefit him. For issuing, by the handiwork of Satan, from his grave at night time, and pursued by a pack of dogs with horrible barkings. That's a really good, visual, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
He wandered through the courts and around the house while all men made fast their doors, and did not dare to go abroad on any errand, whatever from the beginning of the night until the sunrise, for fear of meeting and being beaten black and blue by this vagrant monster. He actually ended up killing a bunch of the town people.
Did he actually kill them? Because I remember hearing about this before, and he was just going around baiting the head off people. Like, he would come out of his grave at night and batter a load of people, and then go back in like Russell Crowe fighting around the world.
It just sounds like a Saturday night in any small town in Ireland.
He was on bath salts on Saturday night, went around clean slapping the head off people, and then went back to the grave.
I saw him in a takeaway.
He was in Abracadabra getting a kebab last night, and then he clean boxed the head off the bouncer and ended up in the grave.
And now he's barred from Abra. Abracadabra is a chain of fast food restaurants in Ireland for our international listeners. They do big shock kebabs. Thereupon, snatching up a spade of but indifferent sharpness of edge and hastening to the cemetery, they, the townspeople, began to dig, and whilst they were thinking that they would have to dig to a greater depth, they suddenly, before much of the earth had been removed, laid bare the corpse, swollen to an enormous corpulence. What a word, corpulence?
He a big boy.
He a big boy. He a chunky boy. With its countenance beyond measure, turgid and suffused with blood. Did he have to go into this much detail? Hate that word, turgid. While the napkin in which it had been wrapped appeared nearly torn to pieces. The young men, however, spurred on by wrath, feared not, and inflicted a wound upon the senseless carcass, out of which incontinently flowed such a stream of blood that it might have been taken for a leech filled with the blood of many persons. Ugh! Then, dragging it beyond the village, they speedily constructed a funeral pile, and upon one of them saying that the pestilential? It's a new word for Niamh. And upon one of them saying that the pestilential body would not burn unless its heart were torn out, the other laid open its side by repeated blows of the blunted spade, and, thrusting in his hand, dragged out the accursed heart, this being torn piecemeal, and the body now consigned to the flames. See, if he wasn't a revenant, they just basically dug up a corpse and went ham on it.
Yeah, they just battered that corpse for no reason whatsoever.
In another tale, Newberg recounts the story of a woman whose husband has recently passed away. One night, the deceased husband returns and visits her in her bedchamber, frightening her upon awakening and nearly crushing her with the unbearable weight of his body. This haunting continues for 3 nights, and the revenant extends his nighttime visits to other nearby family members and neighbours, becoming a, quote, serious nuisance. Eventually, he even begins to wander around the village during the day. The issue was ultimately resolved by the Bishop of Lincoln, who wrote a letter of absolution. The man's tomb was opened, revealing that his body was still inside. The letter was then placed on his chest, and the tomb was reinterred and sealed. And that resolved the whole thing. I love you, but see if you're able to come back. Don't come back to me and lie on top of me. It's bad enough that you can't move with your broken arm. And then we go forward a little bit in time to Ireland, and of course we have to have our own version of everything. There was a discovery of skeletons with rocks in their mouths in Kiltasheen, County Roscommon, which reflected the ancient fear of revenants who were believed to have had the power to come back from their graves to harass their loved ones or others against whom they had a grudge. These fucking grudge keepers, huh? One of them was lying with his head looking straight up, and a large black stone had been deliberately thrust into his mouth, while the other had his head turned to the side and had an even larger stone, wedged quite violently into his mouth so that his jaws were almost dislocated, explained the archaeologist. There was no doubt that the skeletons had been subjected to deviant burials which are sometimes associated with demonic possession. Revenants, or the Walking Dead, are often tended to be people who are outsiders in society when living. There's a known tradition of revenants in Irish folklore, and indeed it has been suggested that Bram Stoker got the inspiration for Dracula not from Romanian folktale, but from an Irish legend about an evil chieftain who had to be killed 3 times after he came back looking for a bowl of blood to sustain him. And that's the story of the AARGH, which we're not going to cover in this episode because I think it's more a vampire story than a revenant story, and I want to save it for that. And so how have we as a society decided that we are going to protect ourselves against revenants? Well, as you may have picked up, deviant burials are burials with something done to the corpse to stop them from coming back. In January 2017, archaeologists uncovered a Roman British skeleton in Stanwick, Northamptonshire, with an unusual twist. The corpse was buried face down and its tongue had been cut out and replaced with a stone, just like with the Irish ones. Simon Mays, a human skeletal biologist, suggested the man's behaviour was likely seen as odd or threatening, which is kind of sad if he was just a bit strange, warranting such a deviant burial. These types of burials found across Europe often aim to scapegoat the deceased for various misfortunes, ranging from disease to bad weather. What kind of power would you have to have over the weather in that way? The most famous examples of deviant burials are vampiric, often associated with staking or weighing down bodies to prevent them from rising again. In Bulgaria, skeletons have often been found with iron rods through their chests, and other graves across Europe have bodies decapitated or pinned down with rocks. These practices are based on the belief that they would return as revenants. Prone burial, as in the case in Stanwick, was often the method to stop the dead from rising, ensuring that they dug deeper into the earth instead of out, which is really fucking haunting. Some believed it punished the soul, preventing it from ascending to heaven. Others saw it as a precaution against restless spirits, and the stone in the mouth may have been a way to prevent the corpse from feeding on the living or to stop it from causing further misfortune, like floods or droughts, which they blamed them for. Such beliefs even persisted into modern times. Stories of corpse mutilation and deviant burial stretch well into the 19th and early 20th centuries, with communities taking drastic steps to protect themselves from what they saw as threats from the dead. In Scotland, according to the novelist Nan Shepherd, Farquhar Shaw had, quote, troubled the neighbourhood so that when he was dead, they set 5 heavy stone kebbucks, which are cheese-shaped rocks, also a new word for Niamh, upon his flat tombstone to keep him under. His grave is still enclosed beneath a metal cage or mort safe to stop anyone from removing the stones which were laid in 1405. And at Tyburn in Fife in 1704, the corpse of Lilius Eadie was buried in the foreshore between high and low watermark with a heavy flat stone over it, possibly, argues historian Louise Yeoman, because of her confession to witchcraft, and perhaps also because she may have committed suicide whilst in prison, and that was, as we know, a cause for people to believe that you cannot be buried in consecrated grounds. In February 1824, labourers digging a saw pit near Tintern Abbey found a skeleton buried face down in an orchard. An elderly local woman suspected this to be the remains of a man thought to have been murdered after he mysteriously disappeared from his house about a century ago. If the man's murderer feared that he would return, then he would have been buried prone so that the corpse dug itself deeper into the ground, rather than out of it. An intriguing twist on that logic occurred in 1889 when, during an Edinburgh murder trial, the clothes of the murdered man were produced in court, but not his boots. It transpired that the local constable had been ordered to bury them on the shore between high and low water mark to prevent the dead man walking, a precaution which shows that murder victims could be feared by others beside their murderer. Well, that would also mean that you have to have complete faith that you caught the murderer, because what if you have the wrong guy in custody, because they could still come back for the real murderer? Though we may never know the exact reasons behind each case, these burials practices remind us of the deep-seated fear of the dead returning to harm the living. And thus concludes our episode on zombies and revenants. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you enjoy yourself?
I did. I felt like I learned a lot, and hopefully we shed some light into the great mystery that are zombies and revenants.
Did it get a little bit less depressing towards the end there? It wasn't all about slavery?
Yeah, once we got away from slavery, it was a bit more interesting.
Yeah. I think revenants need to show up more in movies. We're missing like a good Sean Bean movie with Revenants in it.
Well, he does die in everything.
Yeah, he'd be good. He'd be the ultimate Revenant because he could come back as anything.
This time, Sean Bean is the Revenant.
I just like telling people that in Irish his name means old woman. That's it from us. This has been probably an extra long episode. I'd like to thank Ewan for stepping in when Emily's and my schedule didn't quite match up.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You, the listener, have another full-length episode of this season, and then we are going to be closing out Season 2 of Rowan and Pine. Can you believe it?
Yay.
We're also going to be sprinkling in some pine cones in between then, and probably between seasons too, because you just can't stop a good thing, huh?
Some say Emily may return as a spirit.
Yes, Emily, I can almost hear her. Knock twice, Emily. There she is. I miss her so. So, I have been Niamh.
And I have been Ewan.
And thanks for listening to Rowan and Pine in another October episode. And fuck yeah, Folklore. You have to say fuck yeah, Folklore.
Fuck yeah, Folklore.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Rowan and Pine, spooky shit for all your friends. Zombie, say goodnight.